What's the occupation that you are currently in?
Well, let's see. I work at Raytheon Technologies. I work in the configuration management department, and I'm a configuration analyst. I've been there for about over 20 years now. I basically ensure that the configuration that is designed on the engineering drawings are accurate before they get released out into manufacturing. So I work with engineering, I work with quality, I work with operations to ensure that I deliver a quality drawing for usage to build.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
So I really like what I do.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. So, how did you end up deciding to pursue this occupation?
It was actually accidental.
We love accidentals.
Yeah, so it was actually accidental. When I was going to college, I wasn't even a STEM major. But I basically was given an opportunity from a relative who got me an interview at Hughes Space and Communications back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was interviewing to be a planner. And so I actually fell into the aerospace industry being a planner. And what a planner does is I work in the lab with the assemblers and the technicians and also the engineers and also, of course, quality. Because once the items are all built, they need, quality checks and whatnot, and they mm-hmm. test to make sure that they have the right components on there because they're building items that go up into space because all of the items that I work on are space level. Wow. So basically what I did when I first started was I basically assisted in writing the instructions for the assemblers to use out on the floor. And that also included steps for the technicians and the engineers to test to make sure that they have the correct components on there. And within those steps, of course, there were quality checks. So mm-hmm. that's how I was able to work with different organizations within the company. And I understood what I was basically working towards. Even though my part was small, I was basically writing instructions and getting parts to people. I realized that what I was doing was very crucial in getting the item up into space. So it's not just one aspect of a company that makes it work. It's everybody getting involved in teamwork to ensure that a successful program is completed.
Oh, wow. That sounds very important.
And that's how I basically ended up in configuration, because part of what I did the first 5 years of my career, so I've actually been working for 25 years. So the 20 years I spent was at Raytheon, and I spent 5 at Hughes. Mm-hmm. So my experience in planning led me into configuration because I had to ensure that I was building the correct configuration with the engineers and assemblers out on the floor. So configuration is very important, especially on items that we send into space or out into the warfield, because you need to know what the items you're sending out are built to. Without the drawings, things cannot be built. So that's how I participate in the aerospace/engineering world. Even though I don't have an engineering background, I work with a lot of engineers, and I know how important even the paperwork is in regards to the end product, because you're going to need it once it goes up into space. So if there's a problem, what they do is they look at the paperwork.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things that go on in an engineering company, not just the scientists, not just the engineer, not just the mechanical people, not just the physicists, but little people like me that, came in with a social degree, but I work with a lot of engineers, and I understand how my processes will affect what they have in their output. So
that makes sense.
That's why I said it's all accidental, but I love what I do. I love the fact that I'm a part of something very important.
Well, it's good to love what you do, so then you won't feel sad about it every day.
Nope. I wake up happy every day to work.
That's awesome.
For the most part. Not every day, but, you know.
For the most part, some of the times. But at least it's good. And then, what's the biggest challenge you had in, like, this fairly male, like, dominant field?
Well, I'll tell you something. It is very, it's frightening sometimes when you go in there and the majority of the people at the meetings are men. But over time, with experience that you gain with what you learn at work, I've learned that you should never be scared to voice your opinion. You should never be scared to ask a question, because no question is dumb, okay?
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you'll never get an answer, and you won't be able to ask more questions. The fact that you're able to speak up is huge. So as a woman in a male-dominated field, you have to go in knowing that you are a part of the team and you can ask questions. Whatever you don't know, don't ever be afraid of asking.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah, that makes...
Never be afraid.
That makes a lot of sense. So,
and it's okay if you don't know everything, because when you go into a workplace, you're not going to know everything. Even if you came from the best college or graduated from the best place, or if you're even a PhD, it doesn't matter, because the culture at every company is different.
Oh, yeah.
And by culture, I don't even mean by the people that are there, but I mean their processes, how they do things. Every place is different. So you have to ask questions.
Okay, that makes a really good point. And so did you want to, like, quit, or, like how did you push through till now?
Well, I think one of the turning points for me was when I was told to go to a meeting and to sign something. And when I went there, literally there was one woman in a room full of like 30 men.
Oh, no.
And I was very afraid to walk in. And I told myself, my manager asked me to do this, and I'm going to have to do it. So I walked in, and I knew what I was signing because I had done the work for it. So I wasn't afraid to do it because I knew that I could back up what I did. So, I went in and I participated in the meeting, and I signed off, and I came back to my manager, and she asked me, why did it take you so long? And I told her the same story I told you, that I was scared when I saw, like, all these men in there and one woman. And she started laughing. And at that point, she told me, Carol, I would not have sent you in there if I didn't think you could do it. And just know that because I sent you in with experience, you should never be afraid of walking into any room.
Wow, that'd be a really good quote. Like, wow. And so, what's your personal role model? Like, is there?
It's that manager. It was my manager who encouraged me to always face the problem, never be afraid to ask questions, never say no right away. You can always get back to something or back to someone. There's never anything that you're unable to do without finding out if you can do it. And she always encouraged me to just do the best I can and do it with a smile.
Wow.
She gave me a lot of confidence.
That is a really good confidence booster.
My manager. Yep.
And is there
Best manager I ever
had. Yes. And so is there any advice you would give to other women that want to pursue, like, the career or the field?
Don't be afraid to pursue it. Just go for it. You have nothing to lose. The worst thing anyone can say to you at any meeting is no. But if you don't ask, you'll never know.
Great. Thank you so much.